There's a political reality to this that they are now going to try to use the commission to destroy what the people did vote for. It's cowardly. And what they're saying is that this bill is a recreational bill. What people in general don't understand is that it's political gamesmanship.
But when we take the risk to come out here and be brave or just take that chance to tell people our story, to be completely dismissed is one of the coldest things to do to someone. What they're doing is what I like to call fabricated truths, which are just called lies.
Educate, inform, inspire. The Dan Parsons Show, a podcast that lifts up instead of tearing down.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Dan Parsons Show. I'm your host, Dan Parsons. One of the most talked about and watched issues in recent years will be debated in the Nebraska legislature this week. LB 677 with Amendment 1221 is a comprehensive regulatory framework for medical marijuana, which Nebraskans voted overwhelmingly to legalize and regulate in last year's election. As you know, we had Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers on the show last week to talk about this issue. And as you might expect, that show has brought a ton of comments from our audience. In fact, that episode has quickly become one of the most popular podcasts of the year on the Dan Parsons Show, with nearly 10,000 views and listens. So I asked Crista Eggers if she'd like to respond to some of the Attorney General's comments. Take it away, Crista. Hey, it's my joy to welcome back to the pod Crista Eggers, the hardest working person in Nebraska politics right now, if you haven't noticed. A big week coming up, Crista. The bill that you've been fighting for many, many years is up for debate in the Nebraska legislature. Tell our listeners and viewers what they need to do.
Yeah, so thanks, Dan. On Tuesday, before all 49 senators on the floor, LB 677, the bill brought by Senator Ben that deals with the regulations of how a patient is going to be able to access their cannabis for medical use in the state. We really need supporters to activate immediately. If you're watching this, please right now go and find your state senator. You can put in Find My State Senator in Nebraska. You put in your address and you will find who your state senator is. Please, please, please go on and email them immediately asking them to pass this bill. We as advocates, as a campaign, believe that at this point, without this bill passing, there is a huge amount of gray area and uncertainty and possibly even a scenario where patients, although legal to have their cannabis recommendation, may not be able to get it in a state. And so we just got to get folks to activate immediately on that. You can also show up in Lincoln. We're wanting to pack the balcony, really show the support to these senators as they're debating this issue that's so important.
And I think sometimes all of us get tired, we get worn down. Obviously, we have our lives to take care of and the bills to pay and the kids to take care of. But those moments really do matter for politicians. When they get those phone calls, when they get those text messages, when you show up at the Capitol, it really does make a difference. Yeah. So now
this is one of those, this is a go time. It's absolutely, I would really love for not one senator to be able to say on Tuesday that they have not heard from their constituents loud and clear on this. So supporters, please activate right now. Just really need some huge momentum.
Also, Crista, I wanted to give you the opportunity, as you know, had Nebraska's chief law enforcement officer, Attorney General Mike Hilgers, on last week to talk about medical cannabis. And, I try to provide a forum for truth. And that's our goal here, truth over tribalism. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity because he didn't mention you by name, but obviously a lot of things that involve you very, very closely. So wanted to give you an opportunity.
Hey, thank you. I like that opportunity. I heard in Attorney General Hilgers' podcast in conversation with you, many, many, many things that are absolutely wrong, things that are being misconstrued. And so I appreciate the opportunity. And one of the things I want to jump into right away is, kind of where this all started which is that there was widespread wrongdoing at the hands of our campaign in signature collecting. And while the courts have not ruled that, and that is truly not the assertions that were made, I think that idea has now been put into people's heads that we don't even know if they should have legally been on the ballot. What I want to make very clear is that that lawsuit that dealt with circulator fraud or malfeasance, which essentially means a person collecting signatures that should not have been validated and counted, the court ruled, Lancaster County District Court Judge Susan Strong in late November, after the vote had happened, went over 4 days of trial, discovery, information that the state, that a private citizen, John Keene, there was multiple folks that joined in on that lawsuit. She overwhelmingly, in a 57-page ruling, which is a little bit atypical for a situation like this. You would expect, a couple pages giving a ruling. This ruling, and people can find it online, it went line by line by line, assertion after assertion that the state made and said, no, this did not happen. No, this was not the case. We do not believe this. The experts that the state brought in did not prove this. And so that case has already been ruled on. So it is legally thrown at this point. Now, it is being appealed. Now, we do not know, will the Supreme Court take that appeal or not? But that lawsuit is done and over with. And it's very, very infuriating. You can probably tell by how excited I'm getting right now to continue hearing that narrative. And this all stemmed from one individual on their own doing that was collecting signatures in a illegal manner. He was writing down or taking signatures that were not valid. And what I think A.G. Hilgers left out is that those signatures, when the state did their verification process, the Hall County Election Commission flagged those signatures immediately and said, nope, these don't count. So those were never even in our total. So this idea and this assertion against my campaign, I take very, very seriously, and I take a lot of offense to it. I'd like to also point out that, there were other petition drives that did have some issues. And he says that there were no other issues or concerns. In the 24 ballot cycle, you had Protect Women and Children, which was the Ricketts 12-week abortion petition or abortion restriction. And at the end of things, individuals across the state can sign an affidavit to have their names removed if they believe that they were misled, they believe there was wrongdoing, they changed their mind, a number of things. But you actually have to go sign an affidavit, print it out, and send it in. So it's not a quick, easy process. And their campaign, the Protect Women and Children, had 304 individuals that went and had their signatures removed. Protect Our Rights, the abortion access, had 12 people. The paid sick leave just had 3 people. But what I want to highlight is that—
How many did you have?
Our 2 initiatives had not one single individual that asked for their name to be removed. That's very, very important. There was no one. So, moving on as well, I think, we hear this argument about recreational and what are we trying to accomplish recreational? Did our ballot language try to do that, or this bill that we're supporting of Senator Hansen's? And I take a lot of offense. And I feel like it's absolutely disgusting to hear someone at the state level who he himself was in the legislature for many years, as parents like myself, advocates came year after year after year, begging for them to pass a medical cannabis law. We took it to the ballot not once, not twice, but took us 3 times to be successful. And you know what, Dan? Some of the opposition over the years from folks out when we collected signatures, they were upset we weren't pursuing anything more than medical.
Right.
We have always been medically focused. And so to assert and point the finger that it is anything but, it's very, very infuriating. And I think people know that is absolutely not true. In fact, we as advocates are supporting a bill that actually narrows things and creates, a framework that's safe and tested. This is not recreational. We don't need recreational for our children. Our children benefit in no way from a recreational program. Our children need medical.
No.
The patients need medical. That's what we're about. And so I wanted to also, highlight that as well.
Well, that's important. And I appreciate that, Crista, because, again, facts matter. The truth matters. So I appreciate you setting the record straight. Hey, as we maybe close up here, because we got a lot going on this show, maybe introduce Dominic Gillen and Ben Marksmeyer. And as I get ready to chat with those two gentlemen, because I know you know them well, as so many people have come to know these stories, and maybe just remind our listeners of your story with Colton. Because as I think about going into this debate on Tuesday with the Nebraska legislature, these are the stories that are going to sway those votes. So talk a little bit about Dominic and Ben.
So, Dominic and his wife, Shelly Gillen, I met years and years ago, but they are truly the ones that started this effort. Their son, Will, desperately needs access to cannabis, and they saw children in other states. This has been, back in 2015, I believe. And they said, our son deserves this too. Patients like our son deserve this as a treatment option. And so they have been advocating and fighting for over a decade now. They were, very active in the first legislative bills. And so just Dominic and, again, his wife, Shelly, and their son, Will, some of just my favorite people in this world. And I will tell you that when I got involved several years after this, those were the folks that's how they got us here. Without them and without their bravery to take that first step and say, hey, we need to talk about this, the state of Nebraska would not have just passed medical cannabis into law. And so they have a phenomenal story. Excited for Dominic to share. And then Ben Marksmeyer, I've recently gotten to know him better. He is a veteran, and he has a phenomenal story of how medical cannabis could and has changed his life. And so I think he's a phenomenal voice on the patient perspective as well. We could have 100 podcasts that all lasted, who knows how long, to highlight all of
Yes.
And we appreciate you doing that.
Well, I appreciate that, Crista, and appreciate the work that your family has done. And little Colton. Colton's not so little anymore.
He's not so little anymore. No,
been battling this for a long time. Yeah.
He's 10. But the one last thing I want to mention on a call to action is that just a couple days ago, the governor came out and has offered up 2 individuals that he is wanting to appoint to the Cannabis Commission. Go on our website, NMM, as in Nebraska Medical Marijuana, nmm2024.org/commission, to find out a little bit more about these individuals that he's calling experienced and educated to help do what the commission needs to do. And we are asking for people to make public comment. Personally, I am very opposed to individuals being on a commission that have been oppositional for many, many years. So please, we want online comments made before Thursday. That hearing is open to the public at the Capitol starting at 2 p.m.
Crista Eggers, I appreciate your hard work. I appreciate your willingness to come on here and continue to educate our audience about this important issue here in the state of Nebraska. And folks, show up Tuesday, make your voice heard. 71% of us want this medicine for people like Will and Ben and Colton. So, Crista, thank you, my friend.
Dan.
Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know some of the people who have been fighting to legalize medical cannabis. 2 of those individuals joined me on today's show. Here's Dominic and Ben. Enjoy. Hey, the next chapter of a story that, quite frankly, is worthy of a Hollywood documentary will unfold in the Nebraska legislature this week. On Tuesday, LB 677, along with AM 1221, will be debated by the full legislature. This bill creates a regulatory framework that will allow for medical cannabis patients in our state to gain access to legal and safe medicine. As of today, months after Nebraska voters overwhelmingly told the state of Nebraska to make it so, there's currently no legal way for a patient to obtain cannabis for medical use without this bill. Patients are still being forced to be criminals in some cases in order to access their medicine. Well, it's my honor and, quite frankly, my joy to introduce two people whose stories should be front and center as senators begin debate on this bill this week. Dominic Gillen and Ben Marksmeyer. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay, Dominic, let's dive into this.
Sure.
And we're just going to have a conversation. I know
so-
your stories, but Dominic, along with his wife Shelley, have been in the fight for 12 years for their now 23-year-old son, Will, who has a severe form of drug-resistant epilepsy and is referred to by friends and family as God's Will. So Dominic, I got to meet you briefly at the Lincoln Town Hall, and your story, your story along with your son Will, really moved me, as I know it does anybody that hears this story. And I said, I got to get Dominic on the pod. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So fill us in, Dominic. Tell us a little bit about Will and this fight that you've been on now for some time.
You know, in a real nutshell, we started this. My wife and I went to a town hall for our senator 12 years ago, and trying to get CBD oil because we had seen something about Charlotte's Web oil, Charlotte Figi in Colorado, and so it's been a long 12 years of legislation. Some getting really close. Some that was good, some that was not good. And, trying to work through the legislature, we realized that it wasn't going to work to do that. We are going to need to go to the ballot initiative. And after the third try, that's what we did this time. And like I said, Will was 12 at the time. Or 11 at the time. He's 23 now. And
Wow.
Completely dependent on everything for us 24/7. So, but he's an unbelievable blessing in our lives. So, and so many, he's fetched so many lives without ever having spoken a word. I just wish you could touch a few more legislators' lives.
Well, let's get that done this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ben Marksmeyer, in 2006, if I have this right, Ben, at age 20, your convoy was struck by a roadside bomb in southern Iraq. After being rushed to a field station, a medic pronounced you dead. Obviously, that was inaccurate. And now, nearly 20 years later, you are one of the most decorated soldiers in Nebraska, having earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star with Valor for your bravery on that day. So, Ben, thank you for your service. Thanks for joining us here on the pod today, and tell me what I've missed, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure, my honor. I was dead, actually. I was dead. Took my dog tag. All my organs failed, so I was dead. But no, I just suffering from. I sustained some nasty injuries, some nasty wounds, I should say. Lost my right leg above the knee, my left leg. Lost majority of my hamstring, my Achilles, my ankle, toes. I mean, I have a salvage limb. So I suffer from a lot of neuropathy pain. Which affects everything, your muscles, your bones, your tendons. I mean, just it tightens you up. Pain so much makes you feel cold, So with this cannabis bill here in Nebraska, it's so crucial and essential because people should not have to give up their human rights to legally live happily, And for Dominic's son, he's given up longevity of life, the pain and all the complication that comes with epilepsy. Like, there's a lot more than just having epilepsy that comes with that. And if you can alleviate some of those with a simple knowledge of cannabis, it's the knowledge of cannabis that the senators are not understanding. And when I go down there and talk to a few of them, or some of them now, I need to get in this fight more. you can't get mad at it. You can't get upset at it because they just don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you come across it and have someone educate you. And if you dismiss that knowledge, that's on an inhumane level that is unacceptable. You know, like people like Dominic's son, Will. That's why I fight, you know, because I fight simple pain, but there's certain people that have degenerating issues that can actually help the longevity of life. It's helping me have pleasure in life, and I can live with a little less pain, you know. So this is a community fight. I think we have to have cohesion within the medical field, the senators, our legislation, all that to bring this forth. I mean, this is for the Nebraska people. We support our senators, and now it's time for our senators to support the people that supported them, you know.
Yeah, that's well put, Ben. Either of you jump in here, but what is the reaction from senators and policymakers as you've told your story? And Dominic, I know you're down here to Lincoln a lot. Ben, I know that you've been active, involved in this messy process as well. But Ben makes a good point. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're just naive or ignorant about the benefits of medical marijuana. But Dominic, what's been your experience when you tell these stories and you see then after they understand that they still are resistant to doing what the voter told them to do?
Right. Well, that's what's so frustrating is you talk to them and they get hung up on one or two things, like they get hung up on smoking, for instance, and with this particular bill. And they're listening to someone who's not giving a full story. I mean, the Attorney General has blatantly left out lots and lots of facts. There's I have a million things, but anyway,
that's okay. That's all right. We'll take the time.
He talks about cannabis being a Schedule I drug, and it is. What he doesn't ever seem to want to acknowledge is the fact that DEA, HHS, FDA have all, after decades of talking, decided and said this needs to be changed to Schedule III. And Schedule I says no medical value. Schedule III recognizes medical value. So the Attorney General doesn't recognize the fact that those governmental agencies have already said this is in the wrong place. We need to fix it. And then he'll turn around and say, well, you know, they need to do something in Washington. Well, what he then doesn't also let you know is he was the leader of 10 other AGs from around the country who signed a letter during the open comment period for rescheduling with the federal government saying, don't reschedule to Schedule III. So he's on one hand telling us to do something and then are telling the legislators to do something. And on the other hand, he's actively fighting against that. And that just seems very, it's just very disingenuous to do that. And let's see, there was something else about that. Just the survey. It was, I think, 6 or 8 months that it was open, and there were 40-some thousand respondents, the most ever. 92% of them were in favor of rescheduling, and even more of that 92%, the majority wanted descheduling completely. So the public at large wants to see something happen, and like I said, the Attorney General doesn't share all the facts. Another thing he doesn't share when he talks about the fact that it's federally illegal. Yes, that is true. What he doesn't recognize is since 2014, the appropriations bill every year in Washington that has to do with the Department of Justice has attached an amendment called the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment. And what that basically says is that the DOJ is not allowed, they're completely restricted to be spending any money on litigating against states that have legitimate medical cannabis laws. But he doesn't share that. He doesn't put that out there for people to know. And that's information people should know. That's the reason why they're not doing exactly what he wants and why 38 states have something. The federal government is in essence saying they don't seem to have a problem with medical cannabis.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben, jump in here. I know, I can only imagine having traveled, obviously, and served our country overseas, and then come home with these horrific injuries. And as a young man with your life ahead of you, to be able to petition our government as we did through this ballot initiative, and expect that democracy is going to work as the framers told us it would, and the Nebraska Constitution said it would. And so here we are now, months and months and months after we finally got this not only on the ballot, but approved by 71% of Nebraska voters. Just talk a little bit about the frustration that you've seen in that process.
Right, and that's where I've gone down to the Capitol and pulled off a few senators from the floor to talk to them and discuss this. And I won't label names. I mean,
feel free if you want.
Yeah, I know. You should, because it's the majority. For the senators that do fight for this, obviously our heart goes out for them, and our passion. But they just, like you said, they bluntly, the people didn't vote for this. Yes, they did. Like, why are we going to have a discussion about you bluntly lying to me? Like, this is not the approach. We did vote for it. Facts have no feelings. The numbers, what's that, 71% and 91%, we want to decriminalize it, you classify. Facts have no feelings. The numbers have no feelings. And for someone to be completely, and like I said, for me too, I've come out here and told my story. So has Dominic. We put our futures at stake a little bit, financial burdens and just, what they could, legal issues, all this stuff. So when we take the risk to come out here and be brave or just take that chance to tell people our story, to be completely dismissed is one of the coldest things to do to someone. Just be completely dismissed and be like, and that's what they're doing. And they're like, the people didn't vote for this. And if only the people did vote, we did vote for this. And like Dominic said, they just bluntly don't have that discussion. And then they're hiding facts. I don't know if they're hiding facts or just, it's not, you can be arrogant, which means you don't know the facts. That's different. But to be ignorant, know the facts and dismiss it is wrong. And then what they're doing is called, what I like to call fabricated truths, which are just called lies. But the fabricated truths, you put a few little facts in there, wrapped around 90% of lies.
Well, and yeah, you're right, Ben. And again, the frustration, I've been in the business of public relations and messaging my whole life in this state. And we all have concerns about young people like Ben and not staying in the state, or maybe making a decision to not come to Nebraska. And, right. And all the politicians kind of scratch their head and, pass another tax related bill or something that they think is going to matter. And hey, I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market person. I'm all for commerce, having tax breaks to be able to do business. But I suggest, and I think a lot of people are suggesting, that decent human activity to have the medicine we need to have a full, vibrant life in this state, maybe that's should be considered when we're thinking about keeping and attracting young people and families, not to mention the situations that you were both in your families, that you've chosen to stay in Nebraska. And we're the last one of, if not the last state in America to have this medicine available. So,
and not to interrupt, but
I don't know, please.
The different states, I go out to Washington, D.C. for medical care and other places, and where it is legal and where you have to get a non-residential permit and to see the procedure and the process of how they do it. I followed it, and I've talked to a few senators about this, but for them, again, to like Dominic said, they don't accept the facts. In Nebraska here, they're like, and I've talked to them, and I'm like, well, look at the facts from California, or clearly we're not taking facts from other countries, but from California alone, and look at the facts of Colorado, the financial benefits, the medical benefits. Well, the Nebraska senators are like, oh, well, they're not our facts. They're not the Nebraska facts. Well, then you're like, okay, we'll allow Nebraska University of Omaha to do child practices. Child practice, medical practice, and child air, or not airs. What's what I'm looking for? Trials. And or just open it up for studies. But then they won't. So if you don't allow certain studies to partake in here in Nebraska, and then you don't look at other states, and not only that, I even told them it's not even 20, 30 years of California. The cannabis plant has been studied longer than any other element known in our life. There's documentation from 4,000 years ago on this plant. So for a senator like, oh, we have no studies. That's not true, sir. And we're back at this lying concept again.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't, and like I said, there's it's not arrogance. It's simple ignorance at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dominic, jump in.
Yeah. And, just again, using the AG as an example, he did a press conference a couple of weeks ago with, 12 sheriffs standing behind him in uniform as his backdrop. And, the purpose of that was not to educate the public. The purpose of that press conference was simply, it's one of two reasons, either to intimidate senators into voting into listening to his opinion, or, cynically feeling that it's a way to give the Republican, and it is, let's be real, it's not Democrats, it's Republicans who are the ones who are dragging their feet on this, but trying to give them political cover somehow to be able to vote no. And now the governor has now suddenly decided, oh yeah, I'm going to appoint 2 commission members to the commission, and they're qualified people. That's a bunch of baloney. Neither one of them is a qualified person to be able to be on that commission. Both of them, for 12 years, at least 10 or 12 years, have been actively, openly hostile against medical cannabis. So I would ask the governor, you own a business. And if you were going to do a project in your business and you needed to appoint people to put them in charge to do whatever it is you want done, and you want it to be done well so that you make money, because that's why you're in business, right? Are you going to actively put people in that group of people doing that for you that are opposed to what you want, what the final product is supposed to be? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, because he's coming out and saying that, and his implication is, see, I'm listening to the voters. The reality is there's a political reality to this, that they are now going to try to use the commission to destroy what the people did vote for. You hear it all the time. Oh, no, we're doing what the people voted for. We're doing what the people voted for. And they're not. They're not being forthcoming with what is actually happening. And you've got senators who are willing to believe that and take him at his word. And, the Attorney General has been told at least twice in the last 6 months that your opinions in regarding legislative action are wrong. And your opinion is simply that. It's
by the lower courts. Yeah. We're still awaiting.
There are enough Republicans in the legislature that are ceding their legislative authority to the executive branch. And the Nebraska Constitution specifically has a separation of powers, just like the federal Constitution does. And so they're willingly letting him tell them what to do, which is, you know what, you can edit this wherever you want, but it's cowardly. It's cowardly.
I think that stays in. The other frustrating part of this, we're talking about this bipartisan effort. Well, damn it, it was certainly a bipartisan effort by the voters in those state senators' districts, because all effing 49 districts approved this measure on the ballot. There was no county in this state that didn't approve, in some cases overwhelmingly, to approve this medicine, to have it available. So those state senators, if they're listening, if they claim that their constituents are so stupid that they didn't know what they were doing, they didn't know what they were voting on, then I don't think that's, from a public relations and political perspective, that's not good. That's not a good narrative. So
no, it's not. And one of their arguments, and Ben has probably heard this as well, is, and what they're saying is that this bill is a recreational bill. That's what the Attorney General literally, those were the words he used. Yeah, this is a recreational bill. How can you look at the bill knowing that you have to have a recommendation, there are ailments that they've cut it down to, and say that it's a recreational bill. I mean, everybody, they're legislators, they know that how the process works. It's been 12 years of what we've been doing to try and get medicinal. Recreational just doesn't just magically appear. And, the regulatory framework, they're saying now what they're in some ways saying, we don't really want regulation. We don't want you to do anything with this bill because we don't want to fill in the regulatory framework that the petition had. But that, again, this is what people in general don't understand is that it's political gamesmanship.
Yeah.
And they just keep pulling the same stuff.
Ben, if you had the chance, which I assume you have, and maybe will again, for state senators here in the legislature this week debating this bill, if one of them was sitting in front of you right now, what's the story you want them to remember as they get ready to cast a vote?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of simplicity. What works for some people doesn't work for everyone. So why just take, why the thing is, I've been on, here's what some of the senators too are going off of, this lack of knowledge. And then they'll go on to the World Medical Health Organization or whatever, the guideline and the baseline for what is medically correct. Okay. So one of the senators too said, well, I'm going off the basis of that. So my story, like 20 years ago, when I got wounded in the hospital, nowadays, like for oxycodone and these methadone, some of these opioids, it's only 200 milligrams a day is the max amount. And a lot of kids are now on 60 milligrams or 80 milligrams for certain pains, in certain conditions. But 200 milligrams is the max amount. And this is what the basis of the medical guidelines, right? Well, 20 years ago, I was on 650 milligrams of the stuff, 550 of the other one, and then on 5,000 or whatever, small number of gabapentin. So what I'm saying is there's a learning curve through everything. So what we went through back then, they learned, this is way too much. We're seeing a lot of suicide. We're seeing a lot of heart issues and just so, So now cannabis side, like we've learned a lot already. And that's what's so wrong. Like you said, they've been so dismissive on this. We're like, we've learned this from other states and we can put what other states have put together. And not only that, the farming side of this, the money side and everything, we have farmers here in Nebraska. Our weather, the one thing we all complain about, our weather, not even medical cannabis, but the medical hemp side of it. The weather alone here can strengthen the fibers and the strands of the hemp plant itself. And as farmers around here, we can make this something fabulous here, not just because when I first started trying to fight for this years ago, I was like, let's keep this local. Let's not outsource to other states because other states are going to start coming in and keep the jobs implemented in the state, the farmers, the transportation, the head shop, all this, the medical staff involved in all this. But now it's like I've learned some stuff and it's like, no, us as Nebraskans, we are amazing. Let's help other states. Let's bring revenue into Nebraska. And now it's like we're missing out on financial opportunities. We're missing out on, and it's not even the financial, it's the humanitarian side of this that I'm fighting for. People should not be suffering. They shouldn't have to, like I said, choose to suffer or choose to leave or give up their home. I left my country to go and fight for our country's values. And I represented the Nebraska side of it through Nebraska youths, and for me to literally die and bleed for our little state here, like, well, now you suffered for what you did for us. Now you got to leave because we don't want to take care of you. That's wrong. And then, like I said, above me, because I'm a grown man now, it's just pain. We live and fight for certain things, whatever. We got those things too. But for people like Dominic's kid, for Will, they didn't have this choice. And for them, it's not just pain. It's, like I said, the longevity of their life. So for senators it's not dismissive. You're just being negligent to humanity's side. And the senators, are put in a position to help look after their people. And that is not leadership to me. That is some selfish, interior, selfish reasons. I don't know.
Yeah. Well put, Ben. Dominic, if God's will could talk to a state senator this week, what would he say?
I think Will would say, "Look at me and see me." I think I tried to talk about at the town hall. This is one of the things that I said was, I asked the senators to look at us and actually see us as patients and see us as caregivers, not to look through us to the absurd hypotheticals that they throw out there, which one of them I heard, I think it was even on your podcast, was the fact that, well, people could somehow hoard 30 or 40 pounds of marijuana doing this. And I'm like, when I watched that, I'm like, I was shocked, but that's the kind of stuff that they're feeding to senators and what they're listening to. And if Will could talk, and Lord knows he has spoken to so many, many people without ever having actually spoken a word, just in his story, just like Ben has, I would just beg them to look at him and see him. And, are people going to abuse? Are people going to use it maybe the wrong way? Probably. People abuse everything, but putting proper regulations in place for a safe and well-regulated program is what this bill does. It doesn't take regulations away, which is what the opposition is trying to say at this point. It puts a stronger regulatory system into place, which is what we want, because we want safe products. We want third-party tracking. We want seed to sale. We want all of those things. And yet now they're saying, just go with what the initiative said and not be specific. So, I guess the ultimate thing I would say is, because they really like to tout their Christian values. Okay. Religion is not everything, but if in my mind's eye as a Christian, it means loving thy neighbor. It means looking at my neighbor and how is it that I can possibly help them. And I'm drawn to a specific passage in the Bible. It's Luke chapter 7. It's verses 36 to 50. And it's where the sinful woman comes to Jesus and is washing his feet with her tears and drying his feet with her hair. And that is what we feel like we get to do every day with Will. In his imperfection, he is perfect. And he deserves this opportunity. We know it may not be a silver bullet, but he deserves the opportunity at a better quality of life, like Ben was saying earlier. He deserves that. And so do all Nebraskans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me tell you this, Dominic. What perfection is accepting your imperfections. Okay? So perfection is accepting your imperfections, because your imperfections are your uniqueness. And that makes you divinely beautiful.
Yeah.
It really does. And
Well,
that is Will, and that's where, like some of these laws that we're trying. Another thing you said too, with the legislation side of it, is we're trying to get the laws set up for the right people can have it and utilize it properly, but so the wrong people can't use it and abuse it. And that is a very hard thing. The people use and abuse pills, they use and abuse alcohol. And that so happens where they use and abuse cannabis. Yes. By all these three substances, what is the less damaging?
That's right. That's right. That's
the
other
only one that's illegal.
Yes. And it doesn't make sense. Everyone, even the legal people, legally abuse alcohol all the time around here. Everyone, not everyone, but everyone can vouch that at some point in their time. We've all generally shouldn't. We all done stupid. It's just wrong. So, to say like, was this at another substance? The thing is, a lot of people right now are utilizing it right now, and they're not having car accidents right now. And like I said, that's just the lack of knowledge. And another thing, hey, we're going to hoard 40 pounds of cannabis. Y'all understand how much 40 pounds of cannabis is? That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
And the state law, how it's set up now, where you can, because we can hold 5 ounces of cannabis now, I believe. But what's the law that we can't use it, right?
The Attorney General has not been real specific about putting out anything out there, and I think it's because he doesn't want anything to happen at this point. And
I think it is
a
a big
lawsuit.
So I think technically, I think it says in the bill that we can hold 5 ounces. We can have a state bill, but we just can't use it, which is like, that makes no sense. So I don't know. Like, that's the thing. I've had people from other states that where it is legal talk to me, and then we try to Google it, look it up, and it's like none of this makes sense. And it's because they're comparing their laws. You know, like, oh, I heard Nebraska got legal. And so basically, people here were like, no, it's not. And like, yeah, it is. And you look it up, and it's just complete debauchery of confusion. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. And the licensing side, like you said, we do. And I've talked to senators, and they're like, well, when it comes to the medical card, how do we know how to vet the patients? Sir, it's not your job. You set up a board of medical staff, have a board of people to vet your doctors, but have the medical staff. That's their job to vet them. And then there's got to be some procedures and processes for them to do it. But then once they have that set up, then we simply have a license. And then for them, they said it's harder. The senator said it's harder. Well, if a cop pulls you over and you just show them your license, you go to a dispensary, show them your license. So that part's already done. And for like the recommendation right now is simply just a piece of paper that you can go to a doctor and it says, I recommend Mr. Marksmeyer because sleep deprivation or just whatever reasons. So it's just a piece of paper for a recommendation. Well, if a cop sees that, where is he vetting it? Where is the database to actually have a accountability for? It's just a piece of, so it makes it harder for the police officers. They're wasting taxpayers' money and time trying to figure out. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why we're doing everything completely backwards. And it's like asinine. And I don't know.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, this is a great conversation. I appreciate you both very much in the work that you've done. Let's get this over the finish line. We'll keep watching. We'll get this out so that senators can hear these stories, continue to hear these stories at the moment that's most important when they get ready to hit that red or green button. Gentlemen, thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, man. It was good to see you.
Yep.
Thank you for your service again, man.
My sincere, and I mean this, my sincere thank you to Dominic, Ben, and Crista for your continued fight to legalize medical cannabis to help relieve the suffering for thousands of really good people here in Nebraska. I hope you'll join me and our friends and contact your state senator today and let them know how you feel about this legislation. Thanks to the Parsons team who made this show possible: Chase Porter, executive producer; Ike Simonis, producer and graphic design; Penology Tech Solutions for technical help and equipment; Kim Remington, Parsons Public Relations Director of Operations. And my thanks to each of you for your support. And if you're not following us on YouTube, hop on over there and hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, that's the show. Thanks for tuning in. Now go do good things. I'm Dan Parsons.